Another jam-packed episode for you guys. 5 of the best questions picked from, there's some from YouTube, there's some from Instagram, there's all over the place. Vince, let's get straight into it, man.
So first question, what do you look for when sponsoring an athlete or looking for ambassadors for your brand? From Gums13_Strups from YouTube.
Mate, I reckon Stu knows what your responsibilities here are at MassiveJoes. That's a question. That's a question for you, Vince.
So, I mean, 2 different things. Athletes and ambassadors, they do cross over a little bit, but there's definitely differences between them in what we look for. So we'll start with athletes. First of all, for our athletes, we'll look for kind of high-level IFBB or WBFF kind of pro athletes or some sort of high-level pro in their given federation, depending on what that is. And with that, a good kind of Instagram social media following, doesn't have to be Instagram, but social media following in total, where they are quite active, genuine, and kind of engaged with their following as well. And that's a very big part of it. There's a lot of people who have good following, but don't engage with them, with their following. And just post random photos and might just have a bunch of thirsty guys following them.
100%.
So they're probably the biggest 2 that we first look through. And then it's whether they fit in terms of the overall brand and they have the same kind of core values as well that we do. That's probably a bit, and whether they're going to fit in the rest of the athlete team as well. Because here we're trying to build a team of people, not just kind of one person who might fit in that's not going to fit with the rest of them that's completely different. We're trying to build a team that's going to work collaborative, going to work together quite well. And they're probably the main things for the athlete, off the top of my head anyway. For the ambassadors, it comes down to more of the Instagram kind of side of following and their engagement, quite genuine as well. Someone who's going to represent the brand, so we do this with TMJ Apparel, who's going to represent the brand quite well. There's a health and fitness lifestyle, and is still engaged with their following as well.
And I think you kind of jumped the gun there, because to give the viewers some scope as to, I mentioned that part of your responsibilities. Vince actually manages both our sponsored athlete team and our brand ambassador team. So he's the guy that is in daily and weekly contact with everyone who represents the brand outside of the staff. I'm just going to add a couple of things, because you've almost nailed it on the head. When it comes to the sponsored athletes as opposed to the brand ambassadors, the sponsored athletes are, the cream of the crop. Our brand ambassador program is kind of, we're still looking for cream of the crop type people, but you don't necessarily have to be a pro athlete. You don't necessarily have to, be an elite level athlete. You just need to have, a digital footprint. Right. And I guess from our business perspective as well, our return on investment, our athletes we invest a lot more in, so we need to get a much higher return, as opposed to the ambassadors where the investment is much lower, so we don't need to get as high a return. I'm just going to focus on a couple of things that you just missed with the sponsored athletes. So I tend to think of 4 main things that we look for when we're, scouting for new sponsored athletes, and we're literally just about to sign another one, so you guys keep an eye out for that. New female athlete joining the Team MassiveJoes sponsored athlete squad probably next week. The first thing is you have to be a top level athlete. It means you either have to be an IFBB pro, a WBFF pro, a top ranking pro in another division, or in the IFBB in particular, a top ranking amateur just on the cusp of that pro card. There's 2 reasons for this. The first reason is you're representing a premium brand. So you need to be an elite premium athlete. You need to be a top level athlete, or else it's just not going to be the representation that we want for the MassiveJoes and the TMJ Apparel brands. We're building elite level brands. We need elite level athletes representing those brands. The second reason is because one thing that I've noticed in the many years that I have been managing our athlete team, and all the different strategies the different directions and strategies that we've taken when it comes to managing athletes, the best athletes are the best athletes to work with. If you tell them to do something, they do it. When you're working with athletes who are not elite level athletes, it's almost like that work ethic and that grit is not instilled.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that's not coincidence. That's why they are not top elite level athletes, because they don't have the commitment, they don't have the grit, they don't have the determination, the perseverance, they don't, the way they do one thing is the way they do everything. It's the sort of things that we look for in terms of what we expect from our athletes. I know from experience, and you're learning from your experience, the top level athletes are the best athletes to work with.
100%.
The second thing that we look for, as you mentioned, is your social media exposure.
Yeah.
I tend to consider it a little more broadly than that. I say digital footprint.
Yeah.
So you have to have, there's no point being a top level athlete if no one knows who you are. From a return on investment perspective, for us, it makes no sense. So you have to have exposure, you have to have a significant digital footprint. The third thing is you have to have a proven track record of being able to use that digital footprint. As you mentioned, there's a lot of athletes who have a lot of followers, but they don't interact with their followers. They are unable to capitalize, for lack of a better term, or just interact with that digital footprint that they built.
Yeah.
If you don't have a proven track record, you can't do it for yourself. There's no way you're going to be able to do it for a business like MassiveJoes or Team J Power. And we do ask a fair bit of our sponsored athletes, in terms of the management of them. And then the fourth thing, as you mentioned, we have to be able to work with you. You have to have the right personality to work with us. You have to have the right personality to work with the other athletes within the team. You have to fit. You have to be part of the culture.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. Next question.
So, does sweating during cardio and or training equal fat loss? From Devin Foley from YouTube.
Oh, this is a good one. I'm going to give the short answer, Vince. I'm going to say no.
I'm going to agree with you there. So sweating during cardio or training, sweating is a way for your body to cool down essentially. Yeah. So you sweat more around training because as your muscles contract, a byproduct of that, you produce energy so you move, a byproduct of that is heat.
Yeah.
So everything's heating up more, your body sweats to cool down, to maintain a stable body temperature. Getting too high can be actually really bad. So yeah, your body sweats to cool down, and that's essentially all really sweating is.
If you start to kind of drill down a little bit here, Devin, and you start looking at the different elements of fat loss and in particular thermogenesis, your body is more thermogenic when you're actually not sweating.
Yeah.
Because when you're not sweating, it means the outside environment is cold.
Yeah.
And your body is going to create heat.
Yeah.
To keep your body temperature from dropping too low, and it creates heat through thermogenesis. So technically speaking, you actually burn more fat when you don't sweat.
Yeah,
when you actually burn more fat when it's cold outside,
in a cold environment,
and your body is being more thermogenic than it otherwise would to maintain body temperature.
Yeah, it's like someone who's got hypothermia; they're going to almost shock where their muscles start to contract rapidly, and that's producing heat from it's shivering pretty much. That's producing heat, using energy to do that.
Yeah.
Not saying go get hypothermia to lose weight.
Yeah.
But that's essentially why kind of heat's produced.
Yeah, it's funny, like that old saying where like sweat is like fat cells crying.
Yeah.
Or your body fat crying.
Body fat crying. Yeah.
It's actually it's counterintuitive, but it's actually the other way around.
Yeah.
Regardless, what equals fat loss is caloric deficit over a sustained period of time.
Yeah.
So sweat or no sweat, we're getting to very minor details here. Really, in the big picture, it's caloric deficit. It's burning more calories than you consume over a sustained period of time. That's going to lead to fat loss.
And if you don't sweat during a normal day and you're doing exercise and you're sweating, you're like, you're working more. So if you're judging by how much you're sweating as to how much you've worked, there's a few factors in terms of the temperature outside and all that kind of stuff. If it's the same, you're sweating more, you probably have used your muscles more because they need to cool down more.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Next question.
How vasoconstrictive are monster stacks like Core Fury /Core Pump or Arms Race Nutrition Harness and Pump? From Clark Cootie from Instagram Q&A.
That's a good question, Clark. Vasoconstriction in particular, when you're looking at pre-workout formulas and pre-workout stacks, pretty much the only ingredients in a pre-workout formula or a pre-workout stack that's going to be vasoconstrictive are going to be your stimulants. So your caffeines, your different types of caffeine, your teacrine, synephrine, you know, all of these sorts of stimulants are, by nature of the way that they work in your body, are going to be vasoconstrictive. The far majority of ingredients are actually going to be vasodilatory in their function. I don't even know if that's a word, but fuck it, I'm rolling with it.
Close enough.
But they're going to cause vasodilation, not vasoconstriction. So all of your pump ingredients, for example, is about actually dilating blood vessels to improve blood flow and to improve muscle pumps and all of that sort of thing. So I think probably on a balance of probabilities, you're from a full pre-workout stack that includes, you know, a stimulant-based pre-workout and a pump formula, you're probably going to end up with vasodilation, not vasoconstriction.
I agree. Yeah, most pre-workouts, even by themselves without the pump, will have something in there like a citrulline and arginine, something that's going to help promote more blood flow anyway, or counteract the effects of those stimulants.
Yeah.
And then when you add a pump formula in, you're probably going to end up with vasodilation.
100%. And if you're concerned about vasoconstriction, stay away from stimulant-based pre-workouts.
Yeah.
Just go stim-free.
Yeah, stim-free.
Go something like a Primabolics grind or a Axis Sledge hydraulic or an arms race daily pump, or, you know, there's a whole bunch of stimulant-free pre-workout formulas that there's no chance of vasoconstriction at all.
Yeah.
Next question.
Cool. What do you think is the most over/under-complicated muscle group? From Richard_B_Ray.
Man, we got some good questions. Look at this shit.
I'm going to let you start off with this.
Okay, I'm going to start with overcomplicated. And the way that I'm kind of framing this, I did give this some thought because I read the questions before we went on camera, is if you look at each muscle group, how many different movements is a muscle group involved in, or is a muscle group responsible for? So I'm going to say, based on that definition, I think the most complicated muscle group is going to be your shoulders. As a muscle group, front delt, middle delt, rear delt. And I'm going to say the most undercomplicated, or the simplest muscle group, is going to be biceps.
I would agree with that, actually. It got me thinking. I was either thinking overcomplicated in terms of if people train them overcomplicated compared to what they are.
Well, that's the other way of looking at it, right?
Yeah. Otherwise, like you said, they're involved in more things. And shoulders can definitely do the most. I mean, abduction, adduction, extension, everything pretty much.
I'm just thinking about like you know, you got all your shoulder presses, you got your lateral raises, you got your rear delts, you got your upright. You know, there's so many different shoulder movements to hit the different parts of the shoulder. Whereas biceps, for example, it's curls. Different variations of curls, but they're all curls, right? It's like it's the same movement. If you're doing a slight variation on the same movement, effectively you're bending your elbow. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, biceps and triceps probably the most undercomplicated, or triceps as well. Similar thing, extension of the arms. It's one movement essentially.
100%.
And over, would have been for me, either would have been shoulders or legs. Like quads in particular, probably.
Put calves in there as well, actually. As like simple muscle group. But the one that people fuck up the most.
I'm one of those people. So
it's good food for thought, actually.
Yeah,
there you go. Last question.
Any benefit of using a fat burner while bulking other than energy? Can you gain less fat with it? From Southport 1985 from Instagram Q&A.
So I think where we start with this, Vince, is define caloric surplus, caloric deficit. Because that is really going to answer this question. When you're quote unquote bulking, let's say that's the definition for being in caloric surplus. Effectively, you're trying to gain some muscle, right? So you're consuming more calories than you're burning in a given time period. You're giving your body the best chance to use those excess calories to create new muscle tissue. Caloric surplus, the side effect of being in caloric surplus is some of those excess calories will not be used to create new muscle tissue. They'll be used to create new fat cells. Caloric deficit, on the other hand, when you're trying to lose body fat, is you consuming less calories than you are expending or using in a given time period. Those less calories, you're hoping that your body makes up for that deficit in calories primarily from fat cells as a source of energy, but the side effect is your body's going to give up some muscle tissue as well. Caloric surplus, caloric deficit. The question then is, when you're in this surplus situation, you're trying to make some gains, the side effect is you're going to put on some body fat. If you're taking a fat burner, are you going to gain less fat in that caloric surplus? Thoughts?
Well, in my opinion, probably, I mean, it depends how far deep you are into a calorie surplus as well. Things like L-carnitine are going to help metabolize fat, but probably not. You're probably going to gain the same amount of fat still using your fat burner. I think that's by definition of what a calorie surplus is. If you're using your fat burner to gain less fat, you're not really in a calorie surplus. So if you're bulking, trying to gain muscle tissue, there's really no point. In terms of using a fat burner.
I agree, man. I think that, you know, this is why I'm such a big fan of having periods of caloric surplus that you maintain for years, because that's how long it takes to build muscle, and then having periods of caloric deficit that you might do for a few months to get some body fat off or to get in shape for a show or whatever it may be, because you can lose body fat quickly compared to building muscle. It's all relative. But you know, you're really kind of splitting hairs here when you go, okay, well, we know that fat burners are going to increase your caloric output. So when you're in a surplus, you're consuming more calories than you output. So if you increase the amount you output, that's going to make the surplus smaller. So yeah, you're going to gain fat at not as quickly as you otherwise would, but you could just eat less.
Exactly. I was about to say the same thing.
Like it's kind of like using a sledgehammer to do the work of a I don't know, little pick.
I mean, I personally at the moment am not in a calorie deficit, and I do use Ghost Burn in the morning. Mainly because I like the way it feels. I could also use a nootropic formula for the exact same thing for the energy purpose, like you said. But I don't expect that to keep me leaner.
I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think, if you're in a surplus, focus on building muscle. If you're worried about getting too fat, don't be too far in surplus. If you want to throw a fat burner in there because you like the energy, you like the feeling, you like the taste, whatever it is, do it. But don't expect that fat burner to contribute to you gaining less fat when you're in a surplus.
I agree.
Don't worry about losing the fat when you're in deficit.
Best way, if you're worried, just increase calories slowly into your surplus and just,
Vince, that's a wrap.
That's it
for this episode of The Clinical Dose. Guys, as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel, turn your post notifications on your mobile, your cell phone, and your desktop PC so you don't miss a beat when it comes to all the new episodes of The Clinical Dose. If you have a question that you'd like us to consider for the next episode, episode 10, you do a couple of things. The first thing, the best thing, the way that we see, this is the first place that we look. Comment down below here on the YouTube video in the comment section. Just ask your question there, and then Vince will pick up those and pick the best from there first. The second thing, if you're following MassiveJoes or myself, because I've been putting it on my story, at Joseph Mencel on Instagram, usually Sunday night, Monday morning, we'll put up a IG story with a little question box in there, and you can pop your questions in there, and that's where the Instagram questions come from. Vince, anything else you'd like to add?
That's it. No.
Well, that's it, man. Guys, until next time, where are we coming to and from, man?
MassiveJoes.com.
Stay massive. Thank you for tuning in to this video. We hope you enjoyed watching. Don't forget to check out our latest upload and our recommended video, and be sure to subscribe to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads.